out the vote and help do the work of democracy as voters, because obviously voting is how we make our voices heard and how we claim our power. And over again as winners. So many Black women up and down the ballot won and helped deliver wins this cycle. So what I want us to understand, as usual, what we saw this year is not an isolated moment, and it did not come out of nowhere. What happened in 2025 is part of a growing trend that we've seen for at least the past 5 years, where Black women step up, we step forward, holding office, putting our names in the ring there, doing the work, shaping communities, and delivering results. And we're hosting this briefing for a purpose. We're here to advance our narrative, one grounded in Black women's leadership, our influence, our civic power. So, little housekeeping. We're gonna hear a report from Holly Holiday of Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote. We are then going to have a little discussion. And I'm hoping what you'll do is put your questions in the chat, because we want to get to your questions. So please feel free to put those questions in the chat as we go along. It's at the bottom of your screen. And we're going to try to get to as many of those questions as we can in the time we have. So this is our lens. This is our story. And today we are going to tell it fully, and we're going to tell it plain and straightforward. So let's start with the one and only Holly Holiday, Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote, to give us a report out about 2025.
Oh, well, thank you for that, Karen. I can't tell you. I know so many of us and have been on a high since the election and have been so excited about what's happening. But I have to tell you, this is the day I'm the most excited because I get to talk about the Black women. I get to talk about
Yes.
what we have done, how we showed up. And this is a story of continuation. So I'm going to just jump right into the report, and then I can't wait to talk to you all more fully with the rest of our sister leaders. So I'm going to kick it off like this. I want to focus here on what happened, and we have purposely named this as She Won. I'm sorry, I got my own title wrong. I'm so excited. She led, she voted, and she won. And why is that? Because these are all the things in which we do. This is the first time that we did this report in a way that really didn't just focus on candidates, but showed our spectrum in a very integrated way. We wanted to be sure that we were showing up so that it was really simply about what we are looking at and what we are doing only. So let me just get into it. So let's first start with the leadership. I want to say that this year's leadership was not just about one person. This year's leadership was about how we are showing up and showing out across every spectrum. We not only saw leadership on the ballot, we saw leadership behind the scenes in these elections. We saw leadership grow in in exponential ways in our nonprofit sector and our government sector, although we know that many of them were then laid off. But as this stuff was happening, our leadership continued to shine. So, what was this election really about? Well, I can sum it up in three buckets. The first bucket was this is about our affordability to live our life. This was about healthcare. This was about food. This was about economic security, including jobs. This was about housing. And in races all across America, issues reigned and personalities took a back seat. The next thing is this wave was about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because if you look at not just the Black women who run, which we're going to dig into deep, but we can truly say that we elected a diverse group of people. Why? Because we know what we've always known: representation matters. Representation is super important, and it matters to who's sitting in those seats, whether or not our voices are heard or not. And then the final bucket, and probably this is the thing I'm most excited, this was a referendum against fear politics. We are not sitting aside waiting for things to just continue to beat us down. We are standing up. We are fighting back. There was a little bit of a miscommunication, I think, earlier because so many people interpreted Black women's decision to be radically resting as we were checking out of the fight. And I think in the final analysis of 2025, what we really showed is that we were in a period of restoration, reformation, and resilience. And we have come back out continuing the work that frankly started years ago. And if you take nothing else from this conversation today, I hope you take forward with you the fact that this didn't just start in 2025. It didn't just start in 2024. We've been working, building, collaborating, and doing it in unity together for many years, and we are just continuing to see the effects. Okay, that's the headlines. And I know Holly Weeks is going to drop the report in the chat for you so that you have it. So that you have it, you can study it. It is about 32 pages. So I'm not going to go through all of it, but I do want to hit some things. Essentially, recognize this. If you thought of 2024 as the benchmark, 2025 is the blueprint. It is the blueprint for how we get things done. It recognizes that Black women need to run earlier, that we are increasingly concentrating on local and municipal races, including judicial races, that we are showing up in open seats, that we are dramatically pushing our fundraising capacity, although this is led by small dollar donors, while large donors continue to kind of leave us out. And we are moving in environments that are very polarizing, but yet still getting the job done and winning the races. What does this tell you? This tells you that Black women are not just leading ourselves and our community, we're leading everywhere. And one key thing that this continues to show is that we're showing up in urban areas, we're showing up in suburban areas, ex-urban areas, and rural areas. That's right, everything from big city wins like Detroit, Michigan, all the way down to small town wins like Cairo, Georgia. Black women are showing up and showing out. Now, I'm going to tell you, this was a tough year to be doing this research. Why? Because nobody is checking for Black women and looking at data based on race and gender, and particularly not at local levels, which is what predominated the 2025 landscape. But we were able to eke out a few key trends, and I'm going to start with those. The first trend is Black women are dominating in local power, and because of it, we're seeing the country shift. With the rise of women running for offices like city council, school board, and county leadership, we are flipping councils, becoming more progressive in places where folks thought that only conservative thought would ever reign. And what does this give us? This signals that this might be a shift for something yet to come. This helps us to understand that when we run on issues that drive real life activity, quality of life, and affordable outcomes, we win. And we believe that this is just the building bench that we need to continue to develop as we look forward to statewide and federal leadership races in 2026. Trend number two, the electability myth is dead. 2025 candidates and previous candidates from 2024 show that we can run and win everywhere. What has it taken? It has taken not just our confidence in our candidacy, but clearer infrastructure with sharper issue agendas. It has meant embracing what we have always said we needed to embrace, which is a multiracial, multi-generational coalition of people that says that representation matters. And shout out to those party constructs that have set out and supported Black women, although we recognize that there is still room to grow in this area. Those old whispers that Black women can't raise statewide money or can't win in rural counties, they are officially dead. If 2024 removed the ceiling, 2025 is widening the doorway. Trend number three, We still need to work on our digital visibility, although it is showing improvement. In 2024, we saw that nearly a third of the Black women candidates that ran had literally no campaign website or social media presence. Why is this important? Not just to reach donors, voters, and community, but to also be an engine for pushing back against mis and disinformation. We're happy to report that we saw that digital invisibility amongst candidates is on the decline. However, we do note that there is still room to go in collaborating digital ecosystems and particularly use of updated management tools as well as AI support. We all know that digital presence is no longer a nice to have, but a must have. Trend number four, challenges are growing, and this is a sign of strength, not instability. We have to recognize that when we are competitive, it allows us to change the entire conversation. Whether we win or lose, challenges are not just being competitive, they are driving outcomes. Black women are done waiting for permission. We are claiming our seats and shaping our communities and our futures. Trend number five, and this is the final one, Black voters are still the engine, and 2025 proved it again. We certainly saw this in New Jersey and Virginia, where Black women voted upwards of 45% for candidates and issues in California, again, casting ballots at higher than usual rates for local elections. We showed up and we showed out. Now, we'll get into the forecasting in just a little bit, but I do want to give you some quick updates on some outcomes that happened in Virginia. Wait a minute. I want to start with the mayors. I apologize. First, I want to tell you, did you realize that we elected more than 20 Black women mayors? This is in Alabama, California, Georgia, where we elected seven, Kansas, Michigan, New York, North Carolina, I'm not finished, Ohio, Pennsylvania. In all of those states, Black women mayors were elected. Next, I want to get into Virginia really quickly because there are some big highlights. 17 Black women won in the Virginia House of Delegates. This is the largest number of Black women to ever serve simultaneously in the chamber. Because of them, four Black women helped to flip seats from Republican to Democrat, which expanded the margin of leadership. And then finally, this is what I think is so important because it's not only about change, because people are like, well, of course we're voting for Black women because they represent change. No, we represent change, but we also represent stability because in Virginia, 13, every single Black woman incumbent, every single one won their seat. And this is actually a trend that we saw developing in 2024. Finally, local power was expanded. We won Commonwealth attorneys in Virginia and Portsmouth, Suffolk, and Petersburg, as well as Richmond, treasurers in Richmond, Petersburg, and Norfolk and Newport News, sheriffs in Richmond and Petersburg, school board members in Arlington, Charlottesville, and Fredericksburg, and supervisors in Fredericksburg, Stafford, and more. Why does Virginia matters? Well, Virginia matters because it reflects again the continuity of leadership, the pipeline growth, and a policy-driven campaign. All right, let's move on because I know you want to hear about New Jersey. Well, New Jersey is the perfect storm of not just leadership, but also the way in which we voted. In Virginia, we saw high turnout in competitive districts. We saw consistency and down ballot loyalty. We saw strong community networks supporting candidates, and we saw significant influence in voting based coalitions in Essex, Mercer, Union, Camden, and Atlantic counties. We continue to be the civic backbone, and this is really important because while we have a lot of diverse representation in New Jersey, not much of it is female. So to not only have a woman at the top of the ticket, but to have Black women supporting in those local and municipal races has been amazing. And we saw that again in both high and urban density hubs like Newark, inner city suburbs and growing townships like Bound Brook Borough and Palmyra Borough and the Hamilton Township, as well as on the Jersey Shore, showing that we can literally run everywhere. And of course, let's not forget those school board races. Finally, and this is probably the most fun that I had, I decided to have a little bit of fun and talk about the leadership that exists within our communities. And I spotlighted the leadership of our Black Greek sororities. I bet you probably didn't realize this, and I have to credit Leah Daughtry for bringing this to my attention, that Black women's sororities serve as more than a century of leadership where we see Black women educating, organizing, investing, and governing ourselves through these institutions that are built by Black women and sustained specifically for Black women. We're talking about million-dollar, multi-million-dollar organizations that are stewards of property, philanthropy, community service, and self-determination. And I think when you look at the list of our Black women elected leaders from 2025 who are also members of our sororities, you'll see that their influence does not stop there. Did you know, for instance, that nearly 1 in 3 Black women elected to nationwide office are proud members of a D9 sorority? That from campus to capital, many of these women begin as student leaders, chapter presidents, step captains, or even community service chairs, proving that leadership starts early and grows stronger with sisterhood. How about the fact that sisterhood actually equals strategy? And behind every campaign, there's a chorus of sorority members volunteering, fundraising, and showing up at the polls in coordinated colors and unwavering pride. But most importantly, these sororities have served as a basis for cross-state collaboration from Alaska to Alabama, New York to Texas, and it's just growing from there. Well, I just want to close out by thanking our incredible small but mighty team, Jalen Maxey, El Simone Henderson, Chantel Mullen, the incomparable Holly Weeks, who holds me down on almost everything, and a special shout out to the Black Women's Leadership Collective, its leaders, and member organizations, including Bishop Leah Daughtry, Natalie Shorter, and Bajia Eady, who helped contribute information for this report. And finally, I would tell you that we would not have a Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote. We would not have this report or any of the hard work that we're doing together if not for a Melanie Campbell, who I was honored to be a part of her 30th anniversary this year. And then I'll just close out with this, and I'll ask Holly to drop this link in the chat. We could not do this work without all of you, and we are already starting on our research for 2026. So if you know of a Black woman running for office in 2026, we'll drop the link for you to let us know all about it so that we can continue this work and share more good information with you next year. Whew, I think I'm done. I think I made it through. Karen, bring the sisters up so that we can start our conversation.
I'm trying to come back. I'm coming back.
Yay,
I'm back.
come back.
All right.
That was a
fabulous.
mouthful.
But that was fabulous, and it was great information, and people have access to the report now so they can take their time and go through it. And I don't know if you can see in the chat all the D9 love that was going on. It was and I'm so glad you mentioned that point. And we did have a female vice president who was a member of a sorority.
That's right.
So, the mountaintop of D9 leadership is higher and higher. All right. I think Holly Weeks is going to bring in our two guests. I'll just say, again, Black women, we served as the anchor of civic participation in 2025. As an example, in New Jersey and also in Virginia, Black women turned out at 95%. I mean, think about that. We don't get 95% of anything hardly in this country anymore. And so I also want to point out, we outdid ourselves from 2024. We increased our percentages. And I want to also shout out that our Black men showed up in higher numbers. And, I'm sure a lot of the women were part of making that happen. So we appreciate it. So look, this pattern that we saw repeat in states throughout the Midwest, the South, and the Northeast, Black women turned out with purpose, with clarity, and with community as we have for decades. And as you said, it's not new. It's not a surprise. This is what we do. This is how we roll together. And so as we name it and claim it and center it today, I want to welcome Bishop Leah Daughtry and the one and only Melanie Campbell, who you heard Holly talk about just a moment ago. They're joining us for this conversation. And just a quick reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A box. It should be at the bottom of your screen. And we're going to do our best to take as many questions as we can. But I want to start kind of with a question. And Melanie, I'll ask everybody to answer, but I'll start with you, Melanie. Because one of the things, what I thought was important about this report and important about what we saw this year, and we don't always get to lift it up, we saw Black women winning at so many levels, as Holly mentioned, right? At local level, local government, state elected office. I mean, in some of these state legislatures where we're trying to, one party or the other is trying to take back control, and there are very serious issues on these ballots, and that mayors are dealing with alongside governors and state legislators. So I'm just wondering, how do these consistent wins, particularly in districts where it was, represented by Democrats, Republicans, by the way, represented by Black people, white people, Latino people, how does that sort of challenge what we've seen as the national narrative about the readiness and the capability of Black women's leadership and that pipeline?
Well, first of all, someone put in the chat, do we get it? Everybody got the memo, right? We're color coordinated. So we're in.
Oh, that's true.
Someone said,
Black women work together.
We're just in sync like that, right? First of all, I was like, yeah, we are coordinated.
Totally unplanned. Totally unplanned.
Right. That's like, okay. We're around each other too much.
That's right. That's right.
So just great to be in this conversation today, and celebrating what we have been able to accomplish. I think part of it, as far as on a local level, is not new, but I think what I see, not just this year, but there's a trend in Black women not just being able to win locally, but also statewide. We know we've gotten, one step closer to a woman president, right? And so I think part of it is much more focusing on this election locally when you have the mayors and when it comes to state legislative races, the power dynamics of Washington is what it is, which is basically dysfunctional. We have some great leaders, obviously, in the Congress, but day to day, it's even more critical that we focus in on electing more on a local level. So I was excited to see that. But then I also was just looking at the trend of when we are in a situation, this is a little bit broader than your question, Karen, but just looking at and trying to prepare was just thinking about where we're winning these statewide races and where we're also being under attack. When you have a lawless administration on a federal level, how that has played out over the years, and Black women becoming local DAs, and also becoming state attorney generals like in New York and in Massachusetts and places like that, and then also being under attack as Black women also, Holly being the lawyer in the group, right? Being able to see Black being the top cops, if you will, in their state, and how that, how critical. I'm trying to watch how that is playing out as well, because where we're tapping into levers of power, is where I'm also seeing where they're also going after us, not just going after and discrediting us, trying to discredit us on a national level, but also on a very local level. Finding Willis being one of those examples of that, and the threats of being able to be challenged. And even when I think of Lisa Cook, who's not elected, but being in the power position as it relates to the economy in this country. So that's been my kind of like, I would say lightweight analysis. I haven't had a chance to go deep on it, but just, that's been something I want see how we can go a little deeper about seeing those trends as we break those kind of new glass ceilings, if you will, and how important that is in the time that we're in. So I'll stop there.
Leah, kind of similar question to you, just in terms of, the narrative about these narratives about Black women and power and leadership and really the pipeline. I mean, I think one of the things we saw, so many dynamic Black women running all across the country in all kinds of different races. And when Holly was talking about some of them, how do you think that challenges that narrative about this pipeline of Black women leaders?
Thank you, Karen and Holly, for a great report that really will help inform us, gives us real data, and sets us up for the next cycle. And of course, my sister Melanie, partner in crime for way too many years. It's good to be with you all today. I think part of what we are learning and what we're seeing is how Black women are choosing to engage. And I just want to tell for all the folks who are on the line, if you know a Black woman who ran and won for office in your town, your state, your neighborhood, just put it in the chat. We may have missed somebody. So just put the ones you know, whether it was school board, dog catcher, city council, mayor, whoever it is. If you know a Black woman who ran and won, just put her name in the chat so we can make sure we didn't miss anybody and we've captured them all. But what it also did, what Holly's report shows us and reveals to us is something we already knew. This narrative of Black women resting and that meme that we've seen 9,000 times of Black women sitting on the roof drinking their iced tea while the city around them is burning, as though we don't know that the fire is eventually coming to us, right? So that meme is really kind of insulting when you think about it. But what we see in this election is that we are redefining what rest looks like. And we are redefining what engagement looks like. And so we are also challenging through that our relationship with our allies and with those with whom we partner to say, we've been marching and leading revolution and change in this country for many, 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 many years. And we're looking for our allies to step up. So this is not a matter of us sitting on the couch, as we see by the turnout numbers.
That's right.
We were not sitting on the roof drinking iced tea. We are pragmatic voters. We understand that the building that generally the house on fire is our own first. And so we do what we do, which is show up for our communities, show up for the people in our families. We rest, we getting our rest. We prioritizing our health and our well-being. We are prioritizing ourselves. And for other people, that may look like rest. But for us, it's just a matter of redefining relationship. So we're going to do our part, but we want our allies to do their part too. And if that means our allies, y'all go ahead, have a march. We're going to be there. We're cheering you on, but we want to see you show up for us the way we have been showing up for the Republic all of these years. So what the data shows us is that Black women, our rest includes voting, running for office, doing the work, showing up for community. That for us is our rest, because we know we can't get the real go sit on the beach rest until our community is a whole. And that means us doing our work and doing our work the way that protects us all.
Yeah. Leah, I'm so glad you said that. I had a reporter ask me about this recently, and I said, it may look different, but it doesn't mean we're not there. It means you're not able to see the way we are doing this, because we are always thinking about our communities, but that's where our focus is right now. So great, go do a King's Day march. I'm happy 7 million people turned out, but we're taking care of ourselves and our communities. And as you pointed out, and we're voting, because it is a lifestyle. It is, it's a verb, not a noun, that we live with. Holly, I'm going to come to you, because obviously there's so much great data in this report about these numbers. And I think, to this question about the pipeline, obviously, I think part of what it shows and part of what your research shows is we have a robust pipeline of Black women in all kinds of different types of leadership roles. I'm curious what you're seeing in terms of, is there any nature of office that we haven't run for? Because I feel like you talked about mayors, you talked about sheriffs, we know there's been governors, we know whoever president. Is there anything? It's school board. I saw somebody put in the chat.
No, we're running everywhere, and we actually saw this trend last year, and so this is really a continuation. And I really want to strive home the continuation piece, because sometimes we do these reports and folks are like, "Oh, it's a new flavor." No, this is the old flavor that we just keep mixing up like gumbo and improving a little bit with extra spice. And shout out to the people who know I should not be using a cooking reference. But the point is that we are improving upon a baseline that we started years ago. And then the second point about this is, why is all of that possible? Because we are working in coalition at exponentially more than we ever have before. And what does that give us? That means that the sister who won her race in Anchorage, Alaska, doesn't have to just depend on the sisters who live in Anchorage, Alaska. She's getting support from the other 49 states as well. It means that we no longer have to run in complete isolation, even if in the direct community that we're showing up with, we may see ourselves when we look in the room as the only one. But as Melanie likes to talk about, the secret sauce is us. And now, being more connected, we're helping each other in amazing ways.
Let's talk about that secret sauce, Mel, our coalition builder, because as we like to call you, when we think about voting and just that consistency, what is it that builds that? I mean, is it policy? Is it community networks? Is it, obviously there's a history of it. We've heard from some young people that they don't want to hear, talk about the old days or the old ways. What is that other part of that secret sauce that gets Black women turning out so consistently?
I think it's just our role as Black women, the role that we've had to play, right? It's the history, the ancestors, our grandmothers, our great-greats, our great-great-greats, who when I was thinking about that this morning on that 5:20, Liz, on that 5:25 a.m. train, so y'all, I'm a little slow. But just thinking about some things and some dates in my family, and just thinking about those who've gone on. And last night at the National Urban League dinner, they lifted up Alexis Herman, who we all of us know, and many that are watching, or if you don't know, Google Alexis Herman and you'll know why I bring up that name. And they took time to pause. And so I just had that on my mind, thinking about those who've gone on. And so that, just from that, and that we've always been built around our faith and understanding who we are and whose we are. And I think as Black women, people talk statistics about, we're the majority head of household, but it's just been the history of us before we got to this country and how we were brought to this country and what we had to do through slavery. And it's all a continuum, right? And so for Black women, we have, I think, I can't remember if it was you or Holly, but just talking about the fact, I think it was Holly, that we are working even more closely together and being able to broaden our collective power, and being unapologetic about it. I think the difference has been more unapologetic. And we didn't just get unapologetic last week. We building off of the history of those who were unapologetic and have taken it to another level and making the kind of demands for people who want to use our vote as an example for them to elevate, but yet not invest in us. So there's then the self-determination of investing in ourselves through from various platforms, from Women, Black Women to Power Rising to Black Women's Roundtable, the National Council of Negro Women, and Divine Nine, all of these things that we have, the faith, the church, right? Thinking about the kinds of things that we're also building a even wider ecosystem, which is important, and being intentional about the intergenerational nature of that, right? Being able to pour into the generations coming behind so that there is a continuum of not just leadership, but being effective and moving the ball forward. We're under attack too right now. And so being able to, and talking to my own self, right, being able to allow myself to take a break, right? But it doesn't mean I'm off the playing field. Just you have to build that in as a part of being a good organizer, and being a good leader means you also have to take care of yourself, right? Because that is part of the attack that's coming against us in this time that we see. And so I'm excited. I saw somebody put in, I wanted to go back though, about the fact that we are winning statewide and how important it is. And if somebody put it in about Georgia as an example with and I'm blinking on her name, Sister One, the public public service
Commission, I think it's called.
Public Service Commission.
Public Service Commission
Public Service
in
Commission.
Georgia, two of them that won statewide, but the Black woman who won, and how important just like really looking at those power levers that affect us. And so that I think is where I see there could be more growth. We have not won the governorship yet, but we're going to get there, right? And how important it is. And I still think it'll be a Black woman that win president. I'm not giving up on that. We came
That's
damn
right.
close. So I think that how important it is. And the other thing has been, people are talking about the gender gap. I think we have to be very, very clear about how that gender gap happened. Right? We keep talking about that 95% because folks go, oh, the women, no. The Black women drove that gender gap, right? And we have to be very, very, very with our friends to remind them how that happened in some of these races like Virginia and New Jersey.
Right. So, Leah, I was going to ask you about D9. We have a question about D9 in the Q&A, so that is a perfect alignment. Let's talk about sort of Divine Nine and sort of other organizations. Melanie touched on some of them as turnout engines, as places where we see strategy. One of the questions here in the Q&A is asking for a recommendation about how can we meaningfully engage D9 PACs. So I wonder if you could talk about sort of D9, because they play a couple of different types of roles in electoral politics. I wonder if you could talk about that.
Did you say D9 PACs?
Someone's asked about D9 PACs, but I'm also because I think we're in the C3 space.
C7.
I think we're in a nonpartisan C7. Okay. But I'm also just curious because I know you've talked about engaging the D9 network and thinking about it, frankly, as a network around engagement and voting.
Yes, that's exactly right. Most of I think all of the sororities and the fraternities are chartered as C7 organizations, not C3 or C4. So they are very careful about how they engage in the political space. In recent cycles, what we've seen is most of them, if not all, now have separate organizations to do civic and intentional political work. So they may have chartered them as a C4 or some other construct that allows them to raise political money for candidates, to endorse candidates, to support candidates. And those are separate sister organizations, if you will, to the sister organization. Deltas is called, help me, Melanie, D for Women.
D for Women in Action?
Women in Action. I can't, AKA has one. I'm an AKA and I'm being a bad AKA right now because I can't remember what the name is. Of the political organization. I give my money, but I couldn't. Holly, you know, you remember it?
Now, if we got two AKAs on here and y'all don't know, I'm gonna have to call you out.
But trust me, we have both written checks. So each one has a side, a sister organization that does the political work. So if you are a member of a D9 organization, hook up. The Zetas have one, SGRO, find out what their organizations are and dive in. But in your chapters, we know we have, at least on the AKA side, there's a connections committee, connections and social action. Get involved. Figure out how you engage your sisters in the sphere around them. And as much as we love to talk about, and it is true, the participation of Black women in the political process and how we vote 92%, there are millions of Black women who are unregistered to vote, millions. And so when we talk about who has voted, it's 92% of the ones that are registered.
That's right. That's right.
So there are millions of Black women who are not engaged. Let's go get them. Sororities can be an avenue to that. Also, churches can be also, you all by yourself in your neighborhood can be an avenue to find out in your neighborhood. Sister, you registered to vote? Let me help you get registered. So that we can get to 100% registration, which then translates into millions more votes for the candidates that we are concerned about. And for all the sororities and the social organizations, and one of the reasons we started Black Women's Leadership Collective was to give us a space to organize together. The sororities, all of the national Black women's organizations, Melanie, with Black Women's Roundtable and Higher Heights and NCNW and Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote and Power Rising and the sororities, we come together to try to collaborate, coordinate, have the same stack of information. We do things together and we do things separately in our own organizations, but it's a place for us to really make sure that we are being intentional about our own sisterhood as leaders and as organizations and how we are moving together. So there's no surprises among us. We know what's happening with each other's orgs and how we are moving together. And it's really very, very empowering over these last couple of years that we've been doing that. So I want to encourage you, sister, if you belong to an organization, a D9 organization, or any one of these national Black organizations, tap in. Tap in and figure out not what the org is doing, but how you can help the org to do what they are doing. And if you're not a member of one of those, join up. Melanie looking for members, Power Rising, Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote, NCNW, they're all looking for members. And you can join up whether you in a sorority or not. Not all of us took the sorority route, and that's fine. I'm only 5 years old, so I get it. So, but you can find something to do. And the point is, as Black women, we understand that each of us carries power. Each of us carries power, and we have to exercise that power in the way that we can. In our churches, our sororities, on the block, with our friends, in our schools, at our jobs, we exercise power because we are the original influencers. We're the original storytellers, trendsetters. We make culture. When Black women speak, people listen whether they want to acknowledge it or not. They listen. And so go ahead, girl, be an influencer and see who you can influence to register to vote, to make sure they go vote, and to make change in your own community.
You may not have seen it, Leah, in the chat, but Desiree Whitfield says, I carry voter registration forms in my trunk 365 days a year. She is part of Black Voters Matter in Pennsylvania. Yes, we could all do that.
Right.
I'm going to start doing that. You can
and listen, if you belong to an organization, if you belong to a church, ask your pastor, can we set up voter registration?
There you go.
That's right.
On Sundays? Can we have a table or something so that it's constantly in our face that we can do something? But that's what you can do. As a pastor, I would love it if somebody say, hey, I got an idea. We love ideas. And we love people who want to implement an idea. So get involved. Get involved.
So we have about
in the chat.
Yeah, we got about 10 minutes left and a bunch of different questions that I want to try to get to. this one's for you, I think, Holly, to best answer. And that is, there's a question here. Was there anything that stood out in the election, in the report, that you found unexpected or surprising? And is there anything that kind of gives you some thoughts looking ahead to 2026?
I'm so excited. Let me tell you.
You would be.
The thing that really stood out to me was that we won in conservative areas and we won big. Now, this is a nonpartisan space, absolutely, but it is a factual statement that 10 of the Black women mayors who won in Republican districts. That's a fact.
Great point.
So as we think about where our issues stand and how overwhelming that, and then I think the other big surprise for me, so that to me shows that we're building a bench, but that we're also preparing for our future, and that we have those foundational pieces in place to continue to drive turnout, to continue to move our community because our leadership is showing up. The second thing that struck me, quite honestly, and I tell you, one of the things that literally broke my heart in reading 107 Days and hearing the vice president on her book tour was talking about the response to Trump and how fast people capitulated. Black women did not. And I couldn't see the scale or the lack of our capitulation until we had these elections. And it just reinforced. I mean, I felt it amongst my little friend circles that we wasn't falling for it. But to see the numbers spread out about how we were standing up everywhere in all of these pockets, and then to be able to come today to have this conversation and say there's a national narrative here because we were standing up in all the states and all the places. There ain't no capitulation happening in our community.
That's right.
That to me was big.
That's a huge point. And you're right. I think we recognize with Lisa Cook and Letitia James, they're the two, I would say, highest profile Black women who we are seeing literally having to, not only did they not capitulate, but they're taking it on.
Yeah.
But it's a great point that, I mean, in so many spaces that is also an important point. Question about, and I'm going to put this to all y'all, anybody can answer. Outreach to women veterans. Women are the fastest growing demographic, women veterans. And Lord knows, I'm sorry to say, because of the anti-DEI efforts and the purges that we're seeing that fool at, I'm going to call it the Department of Defense because I refuse to call it what they call it. Unfortunately, I know we have seen a number of women, and Black women in particular, who have been forced to be veterans. But I know there have been some different efforts here and there, but do anybody want to take that on, talking about outreach to veterans, or any recommendations for people who want to be part of that?
Yeah, I think, the fact that not just them voting, but they're under attack for their careers and their life service being under attack, which is from a long-term perspective, very, very damaging to deal with that. And so I think part of it in that outreach is whoever, as I saw that in the chat, is something we need to be focusing on. There's so many things coming, but we can't miss that, because we think about the 300,000+, probably 400,000+ now, loss of jobs. That's inclusive of veterans, right? And the kind of rollbacks, this administration, the cuts that have impacted the nation, but specifically the Black community and Black families. The loss of jobs is real, and so I think definitely think we need to talk about how to do that. And if that person, is a veteran or knows that, I know we've done things in the past where we focus on Black women who are coming out and needed to, working on their careers and wanted to focus on entrepreneurship and things like that. But right now, I think it is important because not just the rollback and them being pushed out, but just trying to make Black folks in the military invisible, right? By
Right.
all the craziness of it. I don't want to go into it. We got just a couple more minutes, but that's a great idea. Definitely going to take that into consideration as we plan for 2026 to see how to do better in targeting veterans.
It's a great point. And also thank you for your service, Pat, for mentioning that, and particularly because it was Veterans Day this week. We certainly want to, it's an important way that we can honor, because we're also being, our role in defending this country is also, and going into service is being erased as part of this. Okay, this is a really fun question from a woman who is in Paris, France. We want a chapter in Paris, France. I will volunteer to go to Paris and help with this. So this Shelley says she tries to tune in with Women with Black Women, but because she's in Paris, the timing. So she does YouTube pages. She's chair of Democrats Abroad in Paris chapter, and co-chair of the Black Caucus in France. And how can we set something up for Black women in France? I feel like all four of us would be willing to help with that one. Anybody? Am I right about that? Because you have a strong Black caucus. I love that. And I love this idea of a global Black caucus of women, maybe through Democrats Abroad, progressives abroad, people, we're nonpartisan here, but I think we know as Black women, I think that's a great idea. And we should follow up on that one. Bishop, are you ready to go to Paris for that?
Yeah, actually, the last time that I was there was a couple of years ago. I spoke at Dems Abroad in Paris. When I travel, I try to get to the Dems Abroad chapters over there. So they had me over. That was the previous president, Sis. So yes, would love to engage and figure out how we make this more vibrant and get more sisters engaged. And I'd say the same thing to the veterans question. There are women, sister veterans all around us. And in many of our organizations, I know I have 4 or 5 in my chapter. And so I'm not aware of any national Black women's veterans organization, but maybe this is the time to start one. Maybe this is the time for the sister veterans and who are listening to gather and figure out how we bring Black women veterans together. They have similar interests to us. It may not have the same interests as the military, as the white veterans, but I'm just going to put that out there for somebody to take that ball and run with a Black women veterans org.
I love both of those because I think it's the next level of our collaboration. And I do want to say these are the ways in which we grow and expand. And we are definitely in our expansion era. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things to come out of this is that there's no shrinking, there's no falling back, that when they are attacking us, we're not just defending ourselves, we're going big.
Absolutely. So last couple questions is a request for the Women Black Women QR codes for voter registration so we can have it out on our phones. I think that can be done. And also I'll just do a plug for vote.org is an excellent resource. All of our organizations will be doing voter registration work, launching probably pretty soon, but vote.org is a great resource to send folks to. Okay, so let's take this on, sisters, as one of our last questions. And this is just kind of about running for office in general with Black women, because we talked about this great success we had. And then we'll close out on this question, which is, why no Black women governors yet? And I will just start briefly by talking about, I worked with Stacey Abrams in her first race for governor. And a number of the things that Holly was talking about in the report are really positive because they're the kinds of things that Stacey was dealing with head on when she ran. People didn't think she couldn't raise money. She literally had to put together a business plan because people didn't believe that she could win. within her own party, they ran a candidate in the primary against her with the same name. So we had to talk about white Stacey and black Stacey. It was just terrible. But and we've come so far, and you heard from Melanie the hope that we're going to get a black woman president, which I'm staying there with Mel. But I think to my mind, one of the things that I found was really positive about the report, Holly, that you just talked about, as I say, a number of the things that Stacey was dealing with in 2018 around people not thinking she could win statewide, having trouble raising the money, sort of all of those things. Obviously, I think she really helped move the needle. But it's great to see that Black women in 2025 were helping overcome some of that. And I'll just open it up, Leah, Melanie, Holly, if you want to weigh in about why no Black women governors yet, and encouraging Black women to run in general.
I think the barriers for statewide office are high. And I mean, just look at the US Senate, which is also a statewide office. And you have to win up and down the state. We just got 2 Black women serving at the same time, right? So now we have in the year of our Lord, 2025,
Yeah.
we just have 5 Black people in the Senate. And sometimes I forget about Tim Scott, but okay. And we just have 2 Black women. But it took all this time because I think the barriers of running up and down the state are high and hard, particularly for Black women. I think about my own state of New York. You can win in the city, but you got to win upstate too. And that's white territory up there. So it's an interesting mix when you talk about statewide. But I think, Angela Alsobrooks and Lisa Blunt Rochester, Barack Obama, Carol Mosley, all of them has shown us that it's possible. And I think it's got to be the right mix of support from our own community and us turning people onto a candidate and a likely and talking about them in a positive way, and helping them turn out voters in unlikely forums and formats, non-traditional media, small dollar donors, all of these things that can help a statewide candidate cross the hump into viability and believability on the part of the larger voting frame.
Yeah.
I agree with that. And frankly, we started, Melanie and I and several other Black women started Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote based on that ideal, based on the fact that we had to shine a spotlight on Black women's political leadership, because but for these kinds of reports and but for these kinds of conversations, they would go largely unnoticed. I am so surprised, even amongst other Black women, how they don't know about certain people who are doing certain things. And so that's why these conversations are important, because it helps to be the basis of building the type of infrastructure, which is about money, which is about votes, but also key about relationships, to make these things happen. So it's all possible. We just have to continue to do the work. So we're in again, I'll repeat it. We're in our expansion phase. And I hope everybody on this call will join us and do the things that Melanie and Bishop have suggested to engage as many other women as you can.
Absolutely. Mel, you want to, any words for a woman who may be thinking about running for office when we close out on that positive?
Do it.
Okay.
Guess what?
Yeah, right.
Do it. Do your homework, but do it. Right.
That's right.
And there are and we talk about the ecosystem really, really quickly. There's so many other organizations that folks are running, Black women or just Black folks in general. I think about Collective PAC. I think about High Heights for America. We talked about the D9 sororities and fraternities. We are also expanding that ecosystem of how to support our own, right? And not just because you're Black, but it's a plus, right? And if you have, with some, definitely with an agenda that is for the good. And so I'm excited about it. We're going through what we're going through, right? But it didn't. What happened this year is that we said we know how to fight back.
Yeah.
And y'all I talk about all the time. We're not gonna let you make us invisible. We not going no doggone where. Well, I'm gonna say something else, but Bishop is on the line. We're not going nowhere, right? We built this mug. We have built what's here, and we're not going, and we're gonna keep fighting, right? But we also have to keep the faith, right? Keep the faith, because we are in some evil times.
Absolutely.
But
We
God's got it.
are.
I would just say, I know we're getting a hook. Sisters, this was a wonderful report and encouraging and inspiring and moving us forward. It's what's now. Now we have to pivot to what's next.
That's right.
And what's
right.
next are the elections that are coming next year, and we have to maintain and exceed this level of engagement. So let's rejoice in the now and get ready for the next.
Amen.
Amen. And we're going
Amen.
to keep the trend going that Holly talked about, our growing power, our expanding leadership, our expanding ecosystems, and our just undeniable impact. I want to thank Melanie and Bishop Daughtry, and of course, Holly Holiday, with Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote, for this fantastic report. In the chat, there's conversation about common defense, which actually does reach out to the women, veterans, and Black women in particular. Please stay connected. As we talked about, this is an ecosystem. Sisters Lead, Sisters Vote, the Black Women's Leadership Collective, Power Rising, the Black Women's Roundtable, all are part of this work. They're we talked about D9, talked about these organizations. You can, join, go to our website, see the resources that we have. I will join my sisters in saying, if you are thinking about running for office, do it. You may not win the first time, but you will get a great experience and learn how to be a better candidate the next time. And the more we do it, the more voters get used to voting for us, right? And that's a key piece of that too. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions. And thank you for being part of this movement. And with that, I think we're good. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Holly. Love you, ladies.
Love you.
Love